Celeste and I found a dog a couple weeks ago, shit, it was probably 2 months ago. And most amazing beagle. It's just a stray dog. We put him online everywhere. Nobody tried to find him. But we set him up with our buddy in Florida because we used to live in Florida. And on the way there, this thing was a fucking tank. He was small. He could fit on your lap, the most curly thing ever. But like, it was like 2 cinder blocks. Like, he was just solid and girthy. This dude, he jumped. Anyways, on that trip, we drove to Florida. He jumped up and landed on my iPad and just cracked the entire thing. So I'm like, all right, well,
that's hysterical.
Like, this touch isn't working anymore.
I have a puggle, so he's like half beagle. So I fully understand. He just turned like 11 the other day, so he's getting up there. Yeah, he's getting up
11. There. My dog just turned 12. Yeah. Last month he turned 12. I got him when he was 6 weeks old.
Yeah, he lives with my sister, who lives like 5 minutes down the road from me, like at her house. And they just got a female Rottweiler, because that's what like her husband had as like a kid and everything. And throughout growing up, he's always had Rottweilers. So they wanted a dog that's able to actually protect. So it's given him kind of youthfulness again.
Dude, but it's so awesome. Like we have so Celeste has a 10-year-old. He's going to be 10. Simon. He's a little Boston Terrier.
Okay.
And I think it just kind of like gave a little bit of youth to Jax, my dog, again, because he's like young, he's like ambitious, he likes to do shit. And it's just like, you have a partner to do something. So, dude, think about going to the gym. It's always more fun when you have somebody with you.
Exactly. Yeah, no, he gets annoyed because like they call her name is Storm, which is cool as fuck. But every time I go over to pet him, she always just runs over and like sits right on top of him, and you can see how annoyed he gets from it. And he's like, he gets really frustrated. But now he has something to play with now instead of just sitting on the couch all day doing nothing, just chilling.
What you're in, what is it, state? You're at Penn State, or you're?
No, I'm at home
right now.
I am at home for the past. What has it been now? What's quarantine? 4 months?
Yeah, coming up about 4 months.
Yeah, we're going on 4 months. Yeah, no, it's been rough, but we're getting out. We get the gyms tomorrow, so it's what
is home? Like, where is home at?
Havertown, PA. So I live about 10 minutes outside of the city of Philly.
Okay, Philly. So you're closer to New York, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Pittsburgh. I was thinking Pittsburgh, dude. I was gonna say.
Oh, I would have driven so many times to Columbus if I lived in Pittsburgh area.
Well, I'm up in Ohio right now, and I've just been. I mean, it's been just kind of like a little bit of a retreat for me. So I've just been cranking out tons of work and doing everything, and I kind of did it all with the intention that. So my dog's getting a surgery on Monday. He's getting a cyst removed from his hip. So I wanted to make sure everything was done, and I ended up clearing everything out aside from like client calls tomorrow. So I have like my whole weekend open. I was gonna be like, dude, if you're in Pittsburgh, like we can meet somewhere.
I know. I'm
up near Cleveland.
I know. I live like, well, my coach is from Cleveland, so it's like.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So I hired a new one. I don't know if you know his name, Mark Tomanek.
Yeah. I think we just follow each other on social media.
Yeah, he's my new coach now. So he's
That's
up
awesome.
in that Cleveland area.
How's that going for you?
Oh, insane.
You like it?
I'm putting on tons of size already, and
yeah,
we're at home, so we haven't even unlocked the gym yet. He's kind of been waiting to see what's going to happen now with getting the gym in our hands. So
you know, there's something so awesome. It's actually like a huge reason I implemented, like all my clients, like mandatory rest days, because people don't get it, and I didn't get it for the longest time. Like I used to be one of those like team no days off, like dumbasses. It's just, you grow up thinking more is more.
Yeah.
Not less is more. So it's a mind fuck to step away. But explaining what it does to somebody, it's like anything else. Like think of a girlfriend, like Celeste. Like we haven't seen, this is the longest in a year and a half, or not quite a year and a half. that we have gone without seeing each other. And it's like, dude, we cannot wait to see each other. And it's like, we always love being around each other. However, it's just like when you like intentionally give yourself space from something that you really enjoy, it makes you it takes away any complacency. It takes away any laziness. And it's like, dude, I'm so stoked to be back, and it makes you appreciate it just so much different. And for me in Texas, I was just so stoked to get back to the gym. So we could quit spending an hour setting up our entire home gym every day.
Oh, dude, it takes us so my sister's, so I go work out at my sister's place, which is kind of nice because I'm able to keep like a routine and everything of actually driving in the car to go to the gym and stuff like that, taking pre-workout and stuff. Um, and but fortunately enough, her husband got a Bowflex and like adjustable dumbbells up to 100 pounds. So I've been able to like at least get some sort of actual workout in throughout the past like 2 months.
Dude, that's perfect.
So it hasn't been truly bad. I could still survive off of it if I truly wanted to. But yeah, it's made me appreciate the gym, but it's made me appreciate kind of the rest time too, because it's like I'm able to just sit. And this is kind of the cool part is like I don't have to travel that far, and then I get to come home. And right after going to the gym and stuff like that, like this is how my brain starts going. So then it starts with so I always record podcasts like days I have gym time.
Dude, it's so awesome, man. Like any kind of routine, you know, like same thing for me. Like I do my rants every day. It's like a routine of before I get to the gym, and then it's like I feel like I can just focus on the gym.
Yeah, no, I had to, but adjustable dumbbells up to 100 pounds are not fun when you have to do like the whole spin the dial. So I feel you on setting up the home gym. I'm like working up to weights. I'm like, all right, spin it back on.
Dude, it makes you appreciate a lot of things you never realized that are so convenient.
Oh, tomorrow when I step foot in the gym, I'm going to be like, I don't have to adjust weights. I don't have to spend energy and time on adjusting weights. I get to just grab them and go. But I get to get a haircut too tomorrow, which is like probably the absolute number one kind of key for this whole thing is I've gotten a haircut since like January. So
dude, it's so strange. Because like in Texas, you know, we're all like gun touting, you know, rednecks, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll lump myself in with that now. I'm like, I've been there 6 months. I'm acquainted. You know, everyone's just kind of like doing their own thing. It was never really that much different of a lifestyle for Celeste and I, because we both
Yeah. I've just been chilling literally in this room. This is my life right here. I just been recording nonstop. That's honestly been keeping me really sane is by doing this like all the time. Like it makes the days go by because I have something to look forward to every day. I was talking with Sean about that like 2 days ago. I was like, man, I've been able to focus in on what I actually want to do in my life, like right now, like through this quarantine. And it's kind of been awesome to just keep recording and just get all these different types of people on the show.
You're at your parents'?
Yeah.
Okay, so how cool is it to think about, like, you know, your story, where you were a few years ago, and you know you were depressed, and you know you know you even talked about, you know, attempts at suicide and things like that, and it's like this is a measure to me, like for you, like to look at it as a measure, to look at you're stuck inside, same place, not able to go out and have all this stimulus or sedate yourself by like drinking, how you said you used to have so many problems with it, dude. How fucking dope is it how you're thriving in the same environment that ruined you before?
That's why I also made an episode about like when I release some of these like episodes, I'm like my ones I do on like on Mondays by myself now, just like talk about it. But like this is something I was talking about with my friend. I was like, man, I really did not like growing up here, and like it's kind of a self type thing where I'm also can't wait to kind of leave too, because I know what the area I'm moving into kind of inspired me to create this podcast too as well, because it's where it all started. Like the whole region that I'm moving to is where it all, like the first episode was recorded and everything. So it's like getting back down there into DC will be cool. But but to think about it, I'm like, it is pretty dope to get back in here and be like, this is the same room where it was going to happen. Like,
Yeah.
that's like, it's the bed, everything's the same kind of.
Yeah, man.
It's a different environment to kind of get back to. And honestly, I will say this has like been a struggle the first few weeks. It was anxiety from not only the quarantine, but being back at home. Because the most I've been at home the past 4 years has been 3 weeks to maybe a month. So it's
Yeah,
like,
but look,
yeah,
like it's just proof that shit doesn't have any control over you anymore. Like, you are not those things. You are not that depression. You're not that anxiety. You're not that lack of confidence. You're not those comments like, the shit kids said to you all throughout high school and picked on you. You're not the body that you were before. Like, it's a completely different mindset, but you're the same person. So
yeah,
it's like, then you have to think about it on the flip side, which is such a cool kind of reference point, is if that's the case, then that means the only thing that you actually changed was your mindset. Everything else is the same environment. Everything else. So we all think we have to find like, oh, I'm going to be happy when I get to this, or I'm going to get to, it's like, dude, you already have it. Like, you
yeah.
always have it with you. It's the ability to tap into it and evolve it and find it and discover it. And like, dude, it's so cool to see that you've discovered this. It's so cool to have been one of the first couple of guests on this podcast and to see like where you've taken it to and how much pride you take in it.
Yeah, that's been the coolest part, because I've had you and Sean on the past 2 days, and I've had a few repeat guests on, but none have been more influential than probably you and Sean, just because of where I was when those episodes happened, and then how I've grown like since those episodes were recorded. Like, we recorded all the way back in like October, I think. And to go from like 300, I think I had like maybe 300 downloads in October.
You were at like 250, because I remember you being like,
Oh yeah,
pulling up strong at 250, and I was like, this is fucking incredible, because I work with people who have hundreds of thousands of followers, and they're like, oh man, like I didn't get enough interaction on this, and oh, like I made this post and I only got 17,000 likes, and it's like, dude, and that was the difference. I think we talked about it, is like, it wasn't a number that you were chasing. It was just, that number was a marker. That number was a reference of knowing you're growing it and knowing you're exceeding it. And then, I think the real test in life is to succeed at something like that and do really well with it. And there's always going to be ebbs and flows. But when you hit, one of those down times, that you don't let it just consume you, and you don't fall back to like, oh, I need to get back to this, or you make everything be that as a reference point, like, oh, I suck now, because no, dude, where you are at any point is 10 times where you were years ago. It's like, and that's what's always so hard to understand about when people say, enjoy the process, not the product, and all that kind of shit. It's like, it's easy to, in a setting like this, to say something like that. When you're experiencing something shitty in your life, it is really, really, really hard to be like, oh, this is a process and I'm going to enjoy it and I'm going to embrace it. But it's like, like you were saying, the first couple of weeks were really hard. But guess what? Like, it all changes tomorrow. Like, you get to go back to the gym, you get to do these things again, and none of that shit matters. It taught you stuff. In the moment, it seems so bad, but in retrospect, it's always like, dude, I'm so glad I went through that. Look at everything you know how to do now. Look at all the new appreciation you have.
yeah. I remember, I think we wanted to keep this private, but I kind of want to talk about it because it was a great reference point to what I'm still doing now, which is, I remember we hopped on a phone call. This is right before we were supposed to meet at the Arnold. Do you remember this phone call? You like pulled over
Yeah.
to the side of the road for this.
Yeah.
And you were talking about like documenting the process through it. Like,
Yeah.
I actually created a Dear Anthony series on my phone.
Yeah.
And it's like videos of each month. Like, I do like a 3-minute video for each month throughout like my process of thinking and where I've grown and where I could grow and stuff, and what I've struggled through and stuff, like what has been highs, what has been lows in those 3.5 minutes. Like, that's what I've been doing every single month, because I remember you told me like, it's not always going to be perfect. Like, and there's going to be those moments that you feel like shit or you're doubting yourself. And there were, and you were correct in that whole thing. There have been plenty of them actually due to this whole virus type thing. And so documenting that has been awesome because it's more, I struggled and then I rose back up again. And now I'm just keeping going this way through it. I'm linear right now, which is kind of crazy to think about,
Dude,
but
that's incredible.
it's like, but I think it's like, I just always go back to that phone call that we had before the Arnold, which was supposed to be the culmination of a ton of stuff. But I'm finally getting Carter Good on the show. So
Nice.
we finally got in
Carter's a good
touch.
dude.
I was like, yes. I was like, fuck yes. I can't wait to
Just
talk
like
with him.
it's just like such a weird little incestuous group, like circle, like everyone knows each other. It's like, and that's the thing is, and I don't care. I'll let myself in with it. It's like good people find good people.
Yeah.
And, like all the people you've had on your podcast, like, like I'm friends with just about, I think, all of them.
Yeah.
Like, and it's so exciting. It's so cool to see, the message that you're trying to get across to people and the kind of people that you want to share their message and be a platform and a launch pad to get it out to even more people. It's so cool. But, the whole like documenting what you're doing, it's because when we get high on something, success, you have the endorphin rushes, the serotonin release, oxytocin is flowing through your body. And it's like, dude, more. We're going to go. And what happens is you're like, I'm always going to remember this feeling because at that moment, any moment where like this moment right now, by the time I get done saying this, it's going to be different. This is as old as we've ever been. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like this is as old as we've ever been, but we're going, oh, I'm going to remember exactly how I feel. How can I not remember this? This is such a good feeling. Well, yeah, it's because you're living it right now. Inevitably, 4 months from now is going to come and maybe somebody makes a shitty comment to you. And regardless of how mentally strong you think you are, whatever, it just catches you the wrong way. And it starts this process of a downward spiral. And I'm huge on videos. I'm huge on, I used to do like notes in my phone all the time.
Oh,
And
I have so many.
the problem was because I used to drive a ton. I was putting about 800 miles in a week, on top of traveling like across the country. Every time I'd get home, I'd have a week, and I would put in about 800 miles between seeing family, friends, and then before I had to fly back out west. And so I had all this time. I was in the car, and I would do voice to text, and I'd try to take all these notes. The problem was when I go back and read those notes, it's like you couldn't hear the passion, you couldn't hear the excitement, you couldn't hear the intonation, you couldn't hear the meaning, the tonality behind it. So I was like, dude, fuck that. And I just started shooting videos. Exactly what I was feeling in that moment, not holding back, not trying to be like, oh, all professional, like who's gonna see this? Like really letting the emotion come through. And all of a sudden I was like, dude, it's like you can feel it. You can put yourself right back in that moment. You can feel what was going on. And to me, there's no better medicine under the sun when you're in a bad spot to be able to launch yourself, to take yourself out of that moment, see it for what it is, because you're going to like, this isn't the only thing I have. Like I've had this before. It's tangible. It's right here. I see it. I'm not just imagining it. I don't care how bad it gets. But I know it can be better than this. So it's like, it gives you the kind of the reassurance that the shitty mess you're in at that moment isn't what it has to be forever.
Yeah. And I think another message is with this whole thing that you were talking about with the videos is something that I've kind of taken away through the past few months, which is kind of like you've been talking about before recently, which is kind of like perfection is bullshit in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is because so many people, because when you think about it, especially the way you just said with videos instead of like notes, is so many people go back into their notes and use those as like captions for posts and stuff like that. And they'll reword it, not at the time, but they'll go back and reword it to maybe make a post to try to make it as perfect as possible. But what does perfection do in that thing? Exactly what you just said, which is it takes every emotion out of it that you were feeling in that exact moment and has no meaning anymore. Like that's how I feel. Like that's like the way I saw it, especially like sometimes like everybody wants to be perfect in a sense. And it is bullshit. It's so bullshit to be perfect.
But what's perfect, and that's the thing is like, there's so many people that could listen to this like time span right here, right now, and be like, oh, this kind of bullshit. Like, oh, like you can make every moment whatever you want to make it, and like, you can pull yourself out of it, and like not perfection and all this stuff, progress. Like, oh, like it's woo woo. It's just like positivity. Like, no, motherfucker. Like it literally is what it is. You have this arbitrary idea of what perfection is in your head. And I'm not saying it's not good to have goals to shoot for. Like, having goals is great to shoot for. But perfection is literally every second of every day doing it the best you can do it. Like, whatever's going on in that moment. Like, you're inevitably going to have days that, I have days that I don't jump out of bed at 4 a.m. and I'm like, oh, like, let's go fucking crush the day.
Yeah.
I have days that I wake up and I'm like, man, I'm not 19 anymore. I'm 33, and like my joints feel that workout I did yesterday. And I'll give myself a little bit of grace and let myself sleep longer. And it's like, so perfection changes. However, there's a big difference between letting what is needed and what's going to put you in the perfect position for that day. There's a huge difference between that and just being complacent and making fucking excuses for yourself. Like, I'm tired. I didn't go to bed on time last night. And that's where it's really difficult. And there's so many blurred lines, but it's like, what is perfection? Like, perfection can be changed every single moment. Perfection is like, I can do this better. You're never going to achieve perfection, because as soon as you achieve what you thought was perfection, guess what? The standard rises because you've now achieved it. It goes somewhere else. And that's why, to me, like, the whole idea of having arbitrary goals, like number goals, things like that, in the big picture, is bullshit. Like, it's, if you're a power lifter, I can understand being like, I need to bench this much, I need to squat this number, and I need to hit this, and that's what my goal is for this. But if you're just a lifestyle human being living your life and you're like, I want to look good, I want to be healthy, I want to feel good, a dude being like, oh, I want to bench 405. Well, why? Like, and what does that mean to you? Like, you're benching what, 200 right now? So that's going to take you a hot minute to get there. So what, you're going to spend the next year getting there, a year and a half, depending on how you program and do all the shit. And then you get there, and then what? Instead, why don't you go in every single day, be like, I'm going to be better than I was yesterday. I want to be better than I was last week. Oh, I just want to keep progressing. You're going to get to 405, then you're going to get to 450, then you're going to go to 500. You're going to keep going. Like, you're going to keep progressing. But I compare it so much to bodybuilding and physique, physique competitors. And, there's a very rare small handful that I think have the right mindset for it, that understand what the sport is, that understand what it's all about. And then you have hundreds of thousands of competitors who are doing it for validation. They're doing it to seek something out, to fix something in their life. Because they think, once you have that amazing body, and like, I think we all feel it, because we all have body image issue one way or another every day. All of us, me, you, the Pope, Ronnie Cole, like all the best bodybuilders ever. I mean, like, I've told this story a million times. Like, one of the most mesmerizing moments is when I was sitting next to a very good friend of mine who was a very elite top bodybuilder in the world. Like, he was in the Olympia. And to hear that when he was on stage, it wasn't the most exciting moment of his life. It was the most insecure he ever felt, ever. But what do? Like, especially guys, we grow up seeing magazines and IG photos and things. It's like, man, if I can look like this guy, man, if I can have abs like that, dude, like, I get any girl I want. I could, have any job I want. I wouldn't even matter if I had a job, because I'd have that body. I'd have the answers to everything. So we chase these things, we achieve them, but it's not ever addressing what the actual issue is. Like, we're treating a symptom instead of a cause. And then we achieve it. And when we solve those problems, it's one of the most depressing things. Like, to see people 2 to 3 days after a show is, man, it's like, it's difficult. And then a lot of girls, if they, and I say girls, I'm not like, like guys, girls, because it happens to guys. Fuck, it happened to me after my first show. Like 3 days later, I was like, man, I'm like 30 pounds heavier than I was on stage a couple days ago. You're like seeing yourself, you think you're like, this is the healthiest I've ever been, this is the best I've ever looked, this is the most validation I've ever had. And then it's like, man, I cannot even see my toes when I look down right now, because I'm so bloated, because all I've been doing is eating the last couple of days. And to see so many people kind of like just hit this post-show depression. And of course, it's going to be a come down, but like, that's what everything is when we set arbitrary goals in our life. For the most part, a lot of the time, it almost becomes like a relationship. It's like a significant other. We have things we do for it. We sacrifice things to get it. We sacrifice things to get there. But the problem is we're so focused on that one goal, we don't see past it and beyond it. So when we get there, we're like, I guess this is the end of the road. Like, where do we go now? Like, where's my purpose? Like, I don't feel like I have a purpose. Like, I remember after the last show I did, it was like, man, like, what am I even doing in the gym? Like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. Like, it feels pointless. And that's what it feels like when people set arbitrary goals. People do it in business. I want to hit $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, whatever it is. And they focus on it so much, they'll ruin the culture of the business, firing people, letting people go to save on costs, to bring up that net profit so that they can just see this number they created in their head. All the while they destroy the culture within their business and their company. They're never going to achieve that again. It's not going to scale. They hit that arbitrary goal, and guess what? Now you fucked everything up because you were only focused on that goal, not beyond it.
Yeah, I think you're kind of getting into my head right now, because like in a good way, because I remember there was a point where I was around, and I'm going to make this into something I was situationally in, like back in March when this whole thing went down. I was cruising. The podcast was cruising. I remember back in December, I made a goal, and I posted about it that I wanted to get to 5K for all of 2020, like 5K downloads. And I was like, and I was at like 3,500, and this is around kind of the beginning of May, kind of, I guess. No, like 4,000 beginning of May. I don't know what I had. But that's when kind of I started like recording like nonstop, it felt like. And that's kind of when I lost like track of that whole number and that arbitrary value. And I started just going into it and loving what I was doing again. And then by the time I got to 5K, which was at the end of May, I was like, I honestly don't know what the next goal is. I was like, I was lost. I had a moment like people said congrats on that post, and I think it was for the validation of it in the end, for kind of beating one of my goals. But it showed that I got there, kind of. It was kind of like a milestone in a way, but I was like, I kind of thought the next day, I was like, what's the next goal? Someone asked me that like the next day. They were like, so it's like 10K your next goal. I was like, I really don't have a goal for this anymore. To truly be honest, I surpassed what I thought this whole thing would ever even imagine it to be right now. Like even recording today. And I was like, and I remember telling my friend, I was like, it's just kind of record and just do what I do. Kind of just be happy on the podcast, discuss what I want to discuss things that may have come up before, have guests on that I just love having. It's kind of like I look at Joe Rogan in a way, and he has guests that have come on and come on before, like multiple times, because people enjoy listening to that. And that's what I'm trying, and that's what I'm kind of learning right now, is like, it really doesn't matter who I have on. It doesn't have to be a different guest every single time. It's who I enjoy recording with, because it's my show. And then out of that, it makes better value for the people who are listening. So there is no arbitrary goal for it anymore. Like,
that's awesome.
People say 10K. I'm like, cool. I was like, I do look at the numbers like when I release podcasts, but that's just to kind of know where I'm at. But other than that, it's like, how many people did I impact? Like, how many people actually listened to this episode and got value? Like, how many people messaged me on Instagram? Like, there's no arbitrary value to it anymore. It's just a passion. It's just a passion project that I love doing now. It's like going back to when I started doing it. Like, it brings me back to the beginning of December when I was at 430 downloads compared to where I'm at now. That's when that whole paradigm shift happened, when everything seemed to go linear again. Like we were discussing back in February, it's like, that's how I felt. I'm back there. I'm back on that high of like thinking, oh, I'm going to go to the Arnold and meet all these people. Like, I'm on that type of high right now where I'm just recording because I love doing it. And I love taking this 1 hour during like 3 days out of the week to be able to sit down with someone and just enjoy a genuine conversation.
Well, and the coolest thing is you created that. Like, you made it what it is. You know, it's like people get so caught up on like, oh, so you're saying don't have goals? Like, no, dude, like your goals, but you got to look at your goals as markers instead of endpoints. You know, people look at like those goals as destinations to reach, and then it's achievement, and then it's there, and I've got it all. Well, no, because then it's like, like you said, like, then what? And, one of the strangest things is to me, and it's kind of like what you were saying, you made, how you said, like your goal was 5,000 downloads. Like, what was that based on? Like, what was that number based on? You said for all of 2020, you obviously very much undershot that, and that's totally cool. But the point is, it goes both ways. It's like you achieved it. But what is that? Like, what is that number? Like, where do these numbers come from? Because look at it like this. What if there's only freaking one person who every week, it's like, oh, cool. Just one person, one download every week. But what if nobody else listened to it? But that one person that was listening to your message every week, literally, like, you changed the course of their life. Like, so what does it matter if you have 4,999 other people that are listening, if you have one person who you're absolutely changing the course of everything in their life? Maybe you're keeping them from killing themselves. Maybe you're changing their entire perspective on something they're super stuck in. Maybe you're helping them with their confidence. Maybe you're help formulate thoughts that they have all the time, and they just don't know how to put anything with it. So they just think they're crazy. And it's like, when you make your goals dependent on variables such as other people, and I'm going to tie it back in. Don't get me wrong. I have absolutely nothing against physique competing, but it's really, it's really funny because at the same time, you can, let's just say everyone, is shooting for the top 5. Most people top 3. Obviously, your goal better fucking be that you want to win the entire thing. However, it's like, you're going to put 16 to 20 weeks of work, blood, sweat, tears, sacrifice, not going out to dinner here, not doing this, not eating this, restriction, emotions that come with it, the very likely possibility of tanking systems and your adrenals and all this shit, and your metabolism, everything, to go on stage, to have another human being, a panel of judges, critique you on like 30, I think, different plus criteria in a matter of 45 seconds, maybe less. A little strut, a change, a turn in lighting. Like, you have no control over the lighting. You have no control over the judges. So it's like, it's not just that, you have no control over who shows up to that. So it's like, where do you find your value in life? It's like, what if nobody shows up to this thing and you win it and you get first place, and it's like your pro card, and it's like, got it. Did you get it? Like, is that what you imagined in your head? What if you do the same amount of work, the same amount of effort, all the same things, because you're the constant, and 5 Olympians show up, and it's like, shit, and you don't even get called out. It's like, do you now suck? Like, do you devalue yourself? Are you down? Like, what is it? That's the whole point. Like it cannot be dependent. Like, your success in life, your happiness, your fulfillment, your joy that you find in life cannot be dependent on other people's opinions of you in every facet. Now, I know we're going from like something very tangible, like a physique competition, to something very not really tangible, like our feelings, our emotions, our thought process, our mindset. But it's like, dude, like, you literally cannot let your life be dependent on other people's opinions of you, because you're inevitably setting yourself up for failure, because those people do not have the same goals as you. Those people nobody else knows your experiences. Nobody feels it the way you do. Like, you with this podcast, it's like, it means something so much to you. My mom, I'd be like, Mom, what do you think about a podcast? She'd be like, what? Like, what does that even mean? Like, so her value isn't in that. Her value, she's 62 years old and works her ass off. And I'm in the process. She owns a flower and gift store. I'm in the process right now of trying to convince her to, like, start filming what she does, like getting it on YouTube. I mean, she makes the most amazing decorations, home decor, all these things. I'm like, dude, I was like, you would own Pinterest. And it's like, yeah, whatever. And it's just like, so she doesn't find the value in that there. So that means that she'd be like, oh, Anthony's a nice guy, and, like, he says good things, but, like, that's not what she's going to look at you and be like, this dude's got to, he's got his head right and everything, because she's not going to put that value in it. But it's you. It's like who you are. So it can't, your self-worth can't be based on a podcast. Your self-worth can only be based on your self-worth. It can't be based on your net worth. It can't be based on how much do you max out at? What is your total? It can't be, what is your body fat percentage? It can't be, how pretty is your significant other? What's your social status? What kind of car do you drive? What kind of watch do you wear? Like, that shit just doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, if all that shit was taken away and you're stripped of all non-essentials in life, like, you would be left with just you. And what I ask everybody is like, dude, could you live with that? Like, could you deal with that? Or are you going to be searching for some external stimulation to give you that fulfillment, to give you that sense of progress in life or achievement?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think about it too with my coaching clients. Going back to even December, what I have maybe one client. Now I have 6 under my belt with me. And I'm like trying to teach them how to live a healthy lifestyle. And that's like the whole point of it. And there's coaches out there, I hate shitting on other people just because it brings bad vibes, but people out there take whoever is genetically kind of better and showcases only those people. Like, showcase all your clients. Like, maybe showcase some of the people who aren't genetically gifted in when it comes to physiques. Because if you're only showing off what you could do for the body, yes, the body has a part of it, but it's honestly the mind and what you're leaving with them in their head that's going to go even farther in their life. Because if you're not giving them the tools to succeed without you, you're just making them dependent on someone,
Dude,
which
100%.
is a problem. It's one of the things, like some of the people, you never know. Some people are sometimes upset because they go to a coach and the coach might say opposite of what they want to better provide for them, when like it's healthier to reverse diet. And people are like, yo, we need to diet. I need to lose weight. I'm like, no, you need to reverse diet. You need to eat more food, and we need to help you get back up, and teach you how to actually flexible diet and do all this stuff, because you're so used to eating the same 5 foods a day, chicken, rice, broccoli. Like, that's not how it goes. Like it's just kind of crazy to kind of describe that to my clients, like to think about it at first. Like, it takes them a while to kind of get used to it. And then they accept that it's like, oh, it hasn't been about the physique the whole time. It's more about the mindset, which is, like I said, when I created that whole thing, be the ace in the deck of cards known as life, there's more to life than a physique. Like, your physique doesn't, like it may make you more confident when you go
Bro,
out.
when you're 70, your physique's probably not going to be
Yeah,
that stellar. You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Exactly. I'm like, what are you going to remember when you're there? Like for me, it's different because I'm starting to get into more of the sport of bodybuilding right now. Like, I
Mhm.
have different, but it's going along with what you were saying. I have different goals than what my clients have. Like, my
Right.
clients are competitors. Like, they don't want to compete. Like, they just want to improve their body as much as possible, improve their mindset as much as possible. And like, that's where it comes down to. You have to stick to what you want it and make your life kind of about that, and make your goal transforming yourself through this process. And it's cool to see, because I just signed a beginner and he's like, I'm gonna, like, I know I'm gonna, he knows how long term it is to actually change someone's life, like not even just the physique, but the mindset and stuff. So he's like, I know we're probably gonna work together for over 3 months. I'm like, I was kind of impressed right when he said that, like on our phone call. I was like, not a lot of people expect to work long term because they don't see that. They see a short term, oh, let me do on an 8-week, 10-week diet and get abs, and then what? And then they're going to be gone in 2 weeks after after you're done with your coach, and then you're going to be going back to them to help you do it again. It's just going to keep cycling back and forth, when it's not about that. It's about
Well,
staying positive.
well, you know, I think like you nailed it. Like, what is so important for coaches to fully understand, and the best coaches do, I think. Uh, I think a lot of them do. And, you know, I say that with a grain of salt because I know plenty that I respect as coaches that don't, I think, get this concept down. Is when somebody hires you, depending on the age bracket you're working with, you know, and it does change. You know, I work with everything from 19, 20-year-olds all the way up to 65-year-olds, men, women, and ironically, like the majority of my clients are female. And it's, you know, the most difficult thing is to again, like you said, get the concept of how nutrition works across, but look at, like, use that as a metaphor for every other area of life. Is, dude, like, coaches will get this attitude where it's like, you're paying me, like, just fucking do what I say. Like, you're paying me to do this. Like, yeah, at some point there needs to be some tough love added in. However, there also needs to be the understanding and the acknowledgement that we're not just, trying to change your eating habits. We're overcoming years of mental conditioning of what is right, what is wrong. And then it's like, oh yeah, well, you've been doing it this way for this long, and you obviously don't achieve what you want. Yeah, but you know what? Like, people still tie to that. Like, look at the shit we do in life. Look at what we do. We hold on to coping mechanisms that don't serve us because we just don't know what any other way to do it. Like, it's scary to step out into the unknown. So for people that, I'm scared of carbs, I'm scared of eating past, X time at night. This is going to make me fat. Like, I need to eat less. Like, I don't want to eat, like, there's no way I'm going to eat more food and it's going to actually help me lose body fat. This is what the scale says. Like, these are all things that you hear all the time. And, if you're a coach running with a whole lot of clients, it seems repetitive and all this stuff. But you got to understand, every individual that you are working with, that is their life. That is their story. That is their truth. And that's their reality. And that is what is going on in their head. It's not just some bullshit that's out there that it's like, oh, okay. So, like, I can eat a cheeseburger and I'm fine. And they're like, oh, okay, no. They're going to eat that cheeseburger. They're going to feel like the grease on their mouth. They see the French fries and they're like, oh man, like, because it's a physiological association that we make. That cheeseburger didn't do anything bad to you. In fact, it probably helped you. We have these foods in our lives that we've demonized. We demonize so many things. And one of the worst things I think anybody can ever do is live in any sort of absolute, like an absolute statement. Like, this is unquestionably awful. Like, nothing's inherently good or bad. Nothing's inherently positive or negative. It's whatever your perception of it is. It's whatever you turn it into be. But where the real power comes in is with knowledge and information. So when you understand what's happening, and I always use this reference of like CSI, like the TV show. So it's like when somebody gets shot in that, it's like it zooms in behind the bullet and it shows it going into the body, and
Yep.
Everything is shattering and doing. And it's like with food, with training, when you're doing these things, to me, it's like so beyond mind muscle connection to really actually understand what's happening. And I look at it, I started training at 14 years old. That was, Jesus, 19 years ago. And it's like to realize I'm still learning every single day. How am I supposed to expect somebody else that has not made this their life, that has not done all the different things I've done, that hasn't taken all the different courses I have, that hasn't been all the different seminars I've been to, that hasn't learned from all the different coaches, mentors, masterminds, whatever you want to call it, over the years? How can we expect them to just adopt this mindset? It takes time. It's been, some people 20, 30, 40 years of this mental conditioning, and we're expecting them to just change on a dime. But the coolest thing about that is to realize, like, what we do, because we do the exact same things. All of us, we're all the same. And I think everything in life is a metaphor for something else in life. So it's like you're working with a client on this. It's like, apply it to yourself. Like, where do you do this in life? Where do you fall back to old habits, things that don't actually serve you anymore? But it's just because, like, I'm kind of scared to, like, go out and try this new thing. And it's like, business owners, you're starting a business, you're starting a podcast, you're doing all these things. Like, it's scary because you just don't know. And fear of the unknown is anxiety.
Yeah. And I think one thing that's also pretty cool is, at least starting with the beginner, is kind of, first of all, they took the step of, which is a huge step in anything, even when it comes down to like I don't want to make it similar to kind of what Brad Jensen was talking to me about, where he had to admit he had a problem, but admit that you need help. Maybe admit to learn, like that they want to learn from someone and that they trust that specific coach to teach them. I think that's always going to be step one for any type of reeling in any type of client. When it comes down to, the client has to be openly admit that they want to get guidance from somebody. I think that's always going to be step one, because a lot of people are nervous to do. I think that's why a lot of people are nervous in this industry, especially when they sign up for some coaches. I will say some. I will go along with what Grant said. There are really great coaches, and I know a lot of them. A lot of them I've had on this show, and Um, it always comes down to the really great coaches are willing to help the people who admit that they need it. And it always
Yeah,
comes down to
man.
that first step of admittance.
Yeah.
So,
So it's 100% that, but then it's also, and I think they go hand in hand. Is if that's the first step, the second step, or part of the first step is the acceptance that what
yep,
you are doing and what your reality is isn't getting you to where you want it to
yep,
be. And then it's a leap of faith from there. It's, I'm going to go all in on this. I'm going to follow this nutrition plan. I'm going to follow this coaching. I'm going to follow this advice. It doesn't feel right, but it doesn't feel right because it goes against what my reality and my story has been. So it's like you're trying to rewire something. So it just doesn't feel right. And then, it's online trading. So it's not like I'm sitting there next to them, watching them put a fork in their mouth and how much they're eating and what they're doing. So it's like, you can do whatever you want. You can tell me whatever you want. At the end of the day, the responsibility comes back to you as the client or an individual or each of us. It's up to us to make everything what we want it to be. And we can sit there and we can justify whatever it is. So anyone who's a client out there or a coach that has issues with their clients in this respect, you know, understanding that we all have a story we're telling ourselves at all times. Like we have what's really happening, and then we have the coping mechanisms or the bullshit, so what I always call a bullshit story, also running at the same time. It's the things that in the moment, you're saying them or you're justifying them to have it just, you have to make your story make sense. You have to make the characters line up. You have to, it's like, the beginning and the where the plot is or the ending's going to be. So it's like, I'm going to fill in all the gaps in the meantime because like I need it to make sense for me. Well, what happens when you do that is you disregard everything else going around you. You disregard what others' intentions are. So like coaches, it's really hard to, if you're stuck in this mindset and you're telling yourself, this guy's a fucking idiot, it's really hard to be vulnerable and be like, I'm going to trust him. You tell a client they need to start eating more food. It's really hard for them to hear. They go, no, everything I've read. I saw a tabloid the other day. You see, I was standing at the grocery store and I saw this thing and it said, I can lose 45 pounds in 15 minutes. So why are you telling me this is going to be a process? I can just do, I'm going to get a waist trainer and drink some Slim Fast. And that's like how it works in their head, because it's that conditioning again. And that conditioning is why I do what I do, because I fucking hate the coaching industry. I hate the fitness industry. I hate the supplement industry, because 99.99999% of it is predicated on preying on people's insecurities and vulnerabilities.
yeah,
And, I think there is a handful of really good people. And obviously with the help of social media now, it goes both ways, because social media allowed so much bullshit to get put out there. But at the same time, you've seen this huge transition in the last probably a year, 2 years, of people really stepping forward and calling out the bullshit and helping filter it out. And to me, that's my ultimate mission in anything I do. Is there's 8 billion people on this planet. Like, there's inevitably other people that have gone through the things I've gone through. So why don't I help expedite them through that process? It's not saying I'm a guru. It's not saying I'm a genius. It's not, I'm just this expert that knows everything and I have all the answers. I have a lot of them. Let me share them with you, because you might be experiencing some of those. Like, let's get you moved along instead of spending 6 years here like I was stuck here, or 15 years being extremely overweight because I didn't know any better and I didn't know what dieting actually was, and I didn't know what nutrition was, and I was such a victim. I don't even want to say a victim, because that's like, oh, I'm a victim. It's not my fault. No, it was my fault. I didn't educate myself before. I let myself fall into that habit of like, oh, chicken and eggs and brown rice and broccoli, and like, oh, I gotta fucking hate this when I eat it, and if I enjoy it, I shouldn't. And if I'm not up by 3 a.m., I'm a failure. And if I'm not in the gym 15 days a week, I suck at life and I'm not dedicated and I don't really want to achieve anything in life. It's like, dude, that's not what it is at all. It's self-awareness of what you want in life. Like, I know people that have amazing six packs and travel and do all these, have millions of followers and all those things, and they're fucking miserable. I know people that work a 9 to 5 that post pictures of their dogs and their food, and might get on social media once a year, make $50,000 a year, and they love their life. They're so happy and fulfilled. And, it's whatever it means to you, So it's like, on the flip side, we're like, oh man, like, look at all the social credibility. Look at everything we're doing. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Look at famous people. Why do you think famous people have killed themselves? Obviously, you hear about those suicides much more often because they're well-known people. However, there's definitely something to that. Like, one of the biggest ones that stuck out to me was Robin Williams. It's like, oh, like,
Yep.
so funny, so happy, excited all the time, doing all these things for other people, making other people feel good. Well, so much of his life mission was to make other people feel good because he didn't feel good. And it's like, when you put emphasis on something that's going to solve all your problems. Like me growing up, we didn't have money. My mom got fucking fucked over by my dad. He tried taking everything from her when I was like 2, and my mom rebuilt her entire self all over again. And then my stepdad did it like 15 years later. She did it all over again. It's like, and she will work relentlessly because she just has this bigger vision in her head. It's like, she's not doing it to say, I achieved this amount of money, because if I was saying I'm trying to achieve this amount of money, well, when somebody else outside of her power took that away, it's like, oh, I'm a failure. How am I ever going to keep going now? And that's the goal in life, is like, if you are here, you fucking have made it. Like, if you are listening to this podcast, dude, you have made it. You have inevitably been through some shit in your life. I don't care how bad, how easy, how privileged, how unfortunate, how fortunate, how many resources, how few resources you have in your life, how easy you've had it or how hard you've had it. Because all that shit's relative. And I use that reference, I use the analogy all the time when people are like, they don't think their story's bad enough, or like talking about relativity of pain and struggles in life. It's like, oh, well, this person's dirt broke and like they grew up, really rough and, all the shit. And it's like, oh, you grew up in this nice neighborhood, like your parents were still married, like everything was handed to you. Like, you can never understand what I experienced. Well, yeah, they can. A millionaire can speak about being broke the same way a homeless man can speak about being broke. That millionaire's used to making $30 million a year, and this year he made $2 million. Guess what? That dude is up shit's creek without a paddle and without a hope's chance. And it's like the same thing. But is that homeless person going to want to hear that guy bitch? No, he just made $2 million. Well, $2 million to that homeless guy is going to be incredible. So it's all relativity. And again, I think I actually just said in my stories this morning, it's like, if I kick you in the side of your knee and blow out your ACL, like, that hurts really bad. And then you look over to your right and somebody's walking by and we shoot them in the chest. Well, relativity is going to say that guy's got it a lot worse. But does your knee feel any better? No. It still hurts when you walk. You're not recovered yet. So you sitting there being like, oh, like, that guy's got it worse, does not fix your issues whatsoever. It doesn't, there's nothing about it. So when we sit around and we're like, oh man, like, that sucked today, but like, I got it so much better than these people. Well, then look what you do. You surround yourself with negative ass people in your life. If you're one of those people who do things like that, you surround yourself with negative people, because you're like, inevitably, I'm going to be around somebody who's worse than me, because they're always worse off. The relativity is going to make me feel like I'm better. It doesn't solve your problems, though. You still have the same problems. And you're not even surrounding yourself with the right kind of people. That's the same reason you surround yourself with the right people. It makes you level up. It makes you rise up. And I think so often in life we get caught up in, like, it's like a reverse Indian run. It's like, let's just suck a little bit less than the bottom person on the totem pole. It's like, if we do that, it's like we can just cruise control through life. Like, I don't have to be any big standout, but I'm not going to achieve that. But I don't have to take that risk and take the chance of feeling vulnerable or taken advantage of, or ridiculed or made fun of or picked on or anything. And obviously with that whole thing, there's like 6 million ways you can go with that, with the way social media is now.
Yeah. And I think I kind of want to tie this into something that I wrote about yesterday. Yeah, my post. This is probably one of the, I deemed it as probably one of the most important messages I've ever written yesterday on my post. And it was about giving people permission to be vulnerable gave me even more permission for myself to be vulnerable on this. Like, people, it's hard to put into words.
I want you to explain that. I want you to explain it exactly how you feel it, because it's gonna require you to be super vulnerable.
So when
I'm
I
sorry. I know this is your show, but I'm going to put your
I
ass on the
know.
spot.
No, trust me. I love this way that this podcast has been going because it has questions from both sides now. Like people ask questions all the time, so this is really good. Um, I wrote this right after we're talking with Sean, which is funny because he kind of asked me some of the same questions that you've been asking. And it comes from when I first came out and told my story, and through time and through the first few episodes, I told more and more of that story. It gave people permission that it is okay to admit these things in, like, whether it's on social media, whether it's in Instagram DMs to even just me, whether it's to family members saying they went through something. Like, that's what this podcast is truly given to people, is permission for them to be vulnerable. And in return, with them being vulnerable, it gave me the okay to admit some of the darker things that also happened in my life. Because there were some things that didn't come out until like episode 13 with Brad, like episodes, plenty of other episodes, like these episodes I'm creating on Mondays. It's whatever comes out at that time through the emotion of the episode. Um, that's why I say this is probably one of the greatest projects I've ever created, is because I've gotten to learn so many people's stories through telling my own, and then expanding on my own just keeps giving them permission to share more of theirs, because people are always afraid. And we're kind of bringing this back into what we initially talked about, which is there is no such thing as being perfect.
Yeah, man.
People could try that all the time, but it's like, but that's what it's really a weird way, which I stated yesterday, but it's like people are inspiring me by telling their stories to me to share more. And it's pretty cool to see that in a way. Like that's why I've kind of changed my whole mindset about this podcast, is because just from that, from getting those few DMs maybe a week about people saying they went through something similar or they resonated with me because of some sort of event that I told on Brad's podcast as being a guest. Like, it's cool to connect with people because of that. And I don't know how to put it into words, just because it's really emotional in a sense. Um,
Good.
it makes me
It
really
should be.
proud that
It should be.
it made me really proud to create this, and that's why it's now more than just a podcast. That's why the whole Ace of Spada thing is a brand. It's more than just a conversation. It's a way of life. It's living to be the ace in the deck of cards known as life. Like, that's like what it is. It's like if you think about it, it's like a circular round, and all the things in on different types of cards are the suicide, the alcohol, the anxiety, the bullying, um, all the different events in my life go around, but in the center is the ace. And that's what all those stuff created who you are to dominate your life today. Um, so the fact that those people are willing to listen and willing to admit it kind of inspires me to just keep telling more and more of my story and giving people more guests that might have went through something similar or have been through that, because that's what people listen to podcasts for, is to be inspired or just be intrigued by something. Like, that's why it's been created. Like, but that's why I said yesterday's post was probably one of the most important posts I've ever created, because I've never felt that way until like this past few weeks, where I kind of been looking back at it. It goes back to the arbitrary goal of 5K. Like, what's the true goal? The true goal is the fact that I gave someone permission to tell their story and admit it, instead of hiding it and letting their feelings and emotions overcome them, because they aren't able to tell their story because they're too nervous to, or they're too nervous to be judged. Like, I'm on here, I'm on a microphone recording. Like, I'm not afraid anymore to be judged for what I say on here. Like in the beginning I was,
But
and now
why?
it's like, but
Why?
and now
Why
I
are
don't,
you not? Why are you not afraid?
because I just don't, because it's just like, the amount of feedback that I've gotten that if people have said thank you to me for sharing that part of my story has made me not afraid anymore.
Boom. That's what it is, man. So it's what am I trying to say? It came to fruition in the way of other people telling you and giving you that feedback, like saying it's okay for you to do this, and it gives me strength. So then it makes you feel like you have purpose and drive with it. However, what if those people never had the courage to even reach out to you? Those people still exist. You're still doing these things, and that's what I talk about when it's like, and it's like such a catch-22, because like it's happened with me too a lot throughout life. Like why I started doing rants, like I just did it one day and I got some feedback on it. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I did it again, and more people, and it was like more. And then it just kind of kept going back and forth until the point I was getting, 50, 60 DMs a day of people being like, dude, I love this. This resonated with me. And it was always different people, because it was kind of a different message every day surrounding around the same thing. And, like one of the coolest things is to do that and get a response from someone now. And I can look, I can see in our DM history, like maybe it was a year since they said something to me last time. And it's because they're still listening. And it's like, all that shit in the last year didn't resonate with them, but this other thing did. So what you're talking about is I formulated it as calling it like being the first to dance at the prom. And if you've heard any podcast I'm on, I feel like I talk about this all the time, because it's such a true thing. And I think we all of us have experienced, unless you're that one person who jumped out, is like when you're in high school and you go to a dance, so I just say it's prom, is like, what do? We always wait for somebody to jump on the dance floor. We're like, well, I don't want to be the first person out there. But then somebody does it. Somebody then is the one that's willing to take ridicule. Someone's the one that's willing to do the thing that nobody else has the courage to do. And they go out there and they start dancing. Well, what happens next? Somebody else jumps in, and then somebody else jumps on the dance floor, and then so the reality is, the entire time, everybody wanted to dance. The reality is, all the time, whether they reach out to you or not, all these people are resonating with your message. So it's like, you're giving them permission to do it. Like, and so it's not that you now feel permission. I think it's so much more that you just feel comfortable. It's purpose. It's like, now I have to do it, because you see how many people it's affecting. And that's what I talk about. When you share your message, you're just authentically yourself. You're not trying to manufacture bullshit. You're not trying to have some sob story and like, oh, this is how bad my life's been, because you have to make it up because you don't think enough people will resonate with it. It's like, it's so fucking weird to think about the fact that people are trying to manufacture authenticity. And it's like, dude, it doesn't matter. Like, whatever you've experienced, the principles of it are what we all feel. And how you're saying, like, realizing other people feel this way, dude, at the end of the day, I don't care what color you are, what religion you are, what race you are, what gender you identify as, what your sexuality preference is. We're all human, and we all feel the same things. We all want to feel loved, accepted, appreciated, understood. We all want to feel like we're valid in our realities that we're creating. And that's what we all want to feel. So it's like, the fact that all you have to do, if you want to understand other people around you and other humans around you, you have to work on yourself. You have to understand yourself. Once you understand yourself, you literally understand every other human on this planet. Now, of course, there's differences when you talk about like experiences, things that some people go through that other people don't go through, certain circumstances that other people face that other people don't face, certain scenarios, whether the area you grew up in, what your family life was like, all those things are different, but we all have the same innate feelings at the end of the day. And then at the same time, we all feel the same fears. We're all scared of being vulnerable. We're all scared of letting down our guard. We're all scared of letting people into our lives. We're scared of letting people see who we truly are, because we're afraid we're not going to be accepted for it. So we cover it up for so long that eventually we don't even know who we are. And then you're doing something, and you're working a job, or you're in a relationship, and you're having another kid, and all of a sudden you're like, what the fuck is my life? Like, how did I get here? Like, when did this happen? It's because you just kind of coasted through life. I'm not saying everybody that has children like are miserable people or anything like that. What I'm saying is we get caught up in letting society dictate and other people's opinions dictate the way we live our lives. Like, super common, I think it's kind of drifting away now, is just that concept of like, go to high school, graduate high school, go to college, get a degree, get a job, get married, have a family, retire at whatever, 65, 70. I don't even think retiring is a real thing for most people anymore. To do all this shit to what? Hope your significant other, one, you're still together, or you have somebody in your life to share it with and that they're still alive. Oh, there we go. Hope that they're still alive. To what? Enjoy 10, 20 years tops? Like, what the fuck is that? Like, when you wake up every day and you quit having the anxiety of, how do I have to perform today to appease society? Because we are society. Like, we talk about society like it's this thing, and I always talk about how it's like, I feel like people picture it like, what's the movie? Mockingbird.
Oh, Hunger
What is it?
Games.
Hunger Games, where it's like, we talk about society like it's whatever they're called, the government, where they're up really high looking down, like there's this big wall, and it's just all of us fucktards down here looking around at each other, and we're like, well, what do they tell us we're supposed to do up there? Like, what's the standard? They got to set it, and they're going to let us know, and then we better live up to it. Dude, it's not like that, though. We are those people. We make up society. We are the ones that create everything. It's our insecurities that we project onto other people that then people go, oh, like, I feel like I have to behave like this. The same way other people project their insecurities onto you, and you're not comfortable enough with who you are, understand who you truly are, have a very strong moral compass and an understanding of where you are at in life and what your mindset is. So you change to it. You evolve to try to fit in. It's like what we do through high school. It's what we do through junior high. It's what we do through our jobs, starting our careers in our 20s or our 30s. We try to fall in line. We don't want to stand out because we spend the first 18 years of our lives trying to blend in so we don't get picked on, don't get made fun of, don't get wedgies, don't get our underwear ran up the flagpole, don't get shoved in lockers. We try to blend in. And then it's like you turn 18 and you get out in the real world, and it's like you're spending the rest of your life trying to stand out, and nobody knows how to do it.
Yeah, no, I just had to get that out because I wrote that post and I was like, I messaged Sean literally the minute after I wrote that post, and he was like, it's probably one of the best things he said he said it was going to blow up. He said he was going to read. It was incredible just because I'm finding the true purpose behind recording every single day now. It's like, that's why. It's like thinking in my head, now I have it. And it's from the people who do listen. And kind of sounds woo. I always get back to my fans and stuff like that, like type that thing, but there is no true type giving back besides just having genuine conversations that might stand out so much that they need to talk about something that maybe they went through. It's the deeper impact of this whole podcast in the end. Like, through the last 10 months of recording, it took me 10 months to figure out the true purpose behind the podcast and what it truly has done. And that's what it is. It's no arbitrary number anymore. It's no, you think just because I had, what do I have now? Like 6.4K, you think that means anything? Like, it doesn't. Like, it's genuinely just inspiring others to actually either change something in their life or inspire them to tell something that they went through. But it all leads just back to that one statement, which is just be the ace in the deck of cards known as life, which I hate repeating it so much, but that's what it means.
Because don't hate it, man. That's your thing,
if
man.
If I'm able to live it, other people are able to. And seeing myself as an example it's kind of tough. Like, seeing myself as an example, I'm like, really? Like, thinking about it, I'm like, my example for other people when it comes to this stuff. And it's like cool to think about recently. Like, yeah, like that's probably one of the coolest things.
Well, and everybody is an example.
Yep.
Every single person, everybody has that. And I think people who find that within themselves, like, for you to do this every day and you to just do it and go after it, that's a pull. And, Tony Robbins, talks quite a bit about, like, pull is much stronger than a push. Like we try to push things in our lives. Like we try to push success. We try to push all these things instead of finding the things that pull us in life. And when you find the things that pull you, you just latch onto them. You don't have to force it. It just happens. And you just go with it all the time. It's like, you probably don't even have to really think about it. Like if you were to not record, you would probably feel really off for the day, because it's part of your routine. It's part of who you are now. And, you know, we push all these things. We push agendas. We push, again, societal norms. We push our careers. It's like, oh, what is somebody going to think success is? Because at 18, you know, we equate success to being a doctor, a lawyer, driving a BMW, Mercedes, whatever, pulling up to the Christmas party with the bombshell, you know, significant other, the stud muffin husband. And like, that's what we are like, that's success. So how am I going to achieve that? It's like very surface layer. It's like, I'm going to become a doctor. So we go to college and we enroll, and then this isn't a knock on doctors. It's just, I work with a lot of doctors. I've worked with a lot of doctors over the years, a lot of lawyers over the years, a lot of people who think they hate their jobs now and they feel so stuck because they made these decisions to this huge process when they're 18 years old, and they were based it on success, not on passion, not on purpose, not on a pull. They were trying to push it because they're like, I don't want to, it's not that I want to be a doctor. It's not that I want to be a lawyer. It's not that I want to do this thing that's going to require me to go to school for another 9 years. I just want that thing that I know everyone else is going to look at and be like, yeah, that dude's successful. And the problem is the older you get, the more experiences you have, your description of success changes, your idea around it, and your identity changes. And instead of identifying yourself as I'm this, or this is my career, or, you know, who are you? This is how much money I make. No, like those are just things. All those are interchangeable. It's like, who are you? So one thing I always like encourage people to try to do is, I love doing it like with podcasts and stuff. And it's fun because, you know, people, you know, sometimes they'll be like, introduce yourself or whatever. And I start talking about like growing up. I started talking about my family because that's what like has made me who I am. And they're like, no, like, what about football? What about this? What about coaching? What about doing this endeavor? What about doing this thing? I was like, oh, those are just like things. And it's like, somebody pointed out to me one time and I was like, that's kind of fucking cool that like, I don't attach it to these other things. I attach it to who I am and where I came from. Because then once I know that, it's like, you can expand on it forever. Like I might not be able to have, like, perfect example. I was riding high on top of the world a few years ago. I was making buku bucks. And then I went into a business endeavor with a person that I consider to be a very, very good friend of mine at the time. And, you know, I got significantly shafted in the process, and I lost, you know, it screwed me out of a lot of money for a long time. And so I went from growing up with not a lot of money. So seeing my mother struggle and us scraping change together, rolling quarters, doing things like that, starting to work at, like, I think I was nine years old. I was working at the marina that we lived around there, just to help pay for anything. And, you know, so I saw the stress in her face, just that fucking defeated feeling all the time. So I grew up thinking, man, like, I'm going to make money when I grow up and that's going to solve all my problems. Well, then I got to the point where I was making a lot of money. I was still bartending. I was helping manage. I was doing online training. I was doing in-person coaching clients. I was doing in-person consultations for businesses. I was doing public speaking, and I was just raking in the dough. And I can't really say I was depressed, but I hit a point where I'm like, this is it. Like, yep. I don't feel any different. Like, I still feel all these other things. Like, I feel like there's more for me out there. And it wasn't more money. It was like, there's just more for me to do. And it's crazy. So I had everything I thought I ever was going to need and fix all my problems. And then just like that, it was all taken in the matter of a few months. It was all taken out from underneath of me. And then I spent about a year being dirt broke, you know, 31 years old, 30 years old, with my mother helping me, my family helping me pay my bills and stuff. And it was it was a little bit of an ego blow, but I was stripped away of everything. It was the most broke I had ever been. And literally it became the richest I ever felt. And in that moment, I realized, I'm like, dude, like we're chasing the wrong shit in life. Like we literally are chasing the wrong things. I was chasing money and I lost it all. You know, I was chasing, and I ended up with a lot of money and it didn't fix anything. And then I had it and then I lost it all and I feel amazing. It's like, you know, like Ben Pakulski chased the perfect body his whole life, achieved it, stepped up on stage, felt the most insecure he ever felt. You know, and it's things like that that stand out to me, because that all, you know, that was who I was talking to at the Arnold.
Yep.
We were sitting together at the night show. I experienced that, and it was literally the next day is when I realized what was happening with my business partner. It was just a coincidence of timing, and it was like kind of like, man, like how eye-opening is that? So when you realize you're not your bank account, when you realize you're not the car you drive, when you realize you're not your social status, you're not the job you keep, how many coaching clients you have, how many podcast downloads, how much impact, because those are all interchangeable. That stuff comes and it goes. You don't ever have any idea, but it's like, where do you find your value? Like, where do you find your self-worth? And for everybody, it's the same thing. It's helping people. Your purpose is just, how are you going to choose to do that? If you're a car mechanic, you help people get back on the road. No, I'm just passionate about it. No, that's like, you're helping people. That's what you're passionate about. Your purpose is, I'm going to be a car mechanic. My mother owns a flower shop. She's passionate about helping people. She helps them by, she carries it out in her purpose by owning a flower shop. She helps people in that are going through funerals, make them a little less hard. She helps people have the time of their lives for their weddings, their proms, their dances, any experience that they possibly have, but she amplifies it. So she doesn't just stop at making flowers. She knows her customer base. She's been doing it for 45 years. She's embedded in the community, and she'll stop at nothing. So maybe it'll cost her $60 to make something, and she charges the people $80. She would have made a $20 profit, but you know what? Maybe she finds something that's going to be a perfect piece for that, and it's $25. She will do that and lose $5 on something. But if she knows it's going to make someone feel a certain way, and it's going to be exactly what they want, it's going to change their emotion of it. Because at the end of the day, it's not like what anybody gives anybody. It's literally how we make other people feel in life. And then if you watch any of my content, it's like, well, all you ever talk about is being selfish, right? Because if you don't take care of yourself first, you're going to be bitter. You're going to be angry. You're not going to be fulfilled yourself, which means you're going to get bitter and resentful towards other people, and you're going to drag them down. You're not going to fill them up. So that's why I'm huge on morning routines. I'm huge on structure for yourself. Like, it doesn't mean you have to be military style and I have to make my bed. Like, maybe that works for some people. Maybe it doesn't work for other people. But like, you have to have a time in your day. And I always encourage you to be first thing in the morning before you step outside to fill your cup. Make that bitch overflow, because what do? We sleep in. Oh, fuck, I got to go. You're running around. You spill coffee on your shirt. It's like, oh, my God. And it's like, and then someone cuts you off in traffic. It's like, this motherfucker, you're laying on your horn, and it makes you mad. And then you get to the office and you're pissed. And like, because of that, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, Dave. You know, like, they cut me off. I spilled, you know, it's the shit everybody does all the time. Make an excuse about something, and it just eats away at us. And what happens? That entire day is wasted because you just set the tone for your entire day based on that bullshit. What if you would have woken up an hour earlier? And you just, whether maybe you read, maybe you meditate, maybe it's just taking some time to plan your day. And that's all it takes. And once you do that, it's like your hand touches the handle to step outside. And it's like, I'm ready to take on anything this fucking world has to throw at me. Anything that's within my power of controlling, like, I can do it. I can handle it now because I put myself first. So being selfish is the only way you're ever truly able to be unselfish in life.
Yeah. And I think it's probably the perfect way to end this whole podcast. We've gone long enough.
Where are we at?
It's 4:30.
Nice. Wow.
So before kind of I wrap up, I've been doing this thing. Usually I ask the same 3 questions, but today I'm going to make it 2. Kind of just, I kind of want to know three things. Instead of three things I want people to take away, because if you didn't take away anything from this, we shouldn't need to remind you what to take away from this one. I want to ask you, what three things did you learn during quarantine?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm like, who else? Um,
It's the guy behind me who's sitting right
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Three things I learned throughout quarantine is one, you know, and it's funny in light of a lot of what's going on in the world right now. You look at, all the social injustice movements and all the things people get behind, is everybody has different levels of things that are important to them based on what their story is. And the biggest problem in the world is that, I think overall, and obviously, some people could hear that and be like, oh no, this is the problem. And it's like, no, like I'm talking large scope, principle wise, is that we have a real lack of being able to respect others, like difference of opinions, difference of viewership, understanding that without that contrast, our stance doesn't exist. You can't, like, good does not exist without bad. You don't have beautiful sunshine days if you don't have thunderstorms, because it's just what it is. Like, if you don't have a few bad training sessions a week, you don't ever have those ones that just knock it out of the park. So that's the biggest thing I learned, I think, is that it's like, whether you're talking Democrat, Republican, who's to blame for this or this or this, whatever it is that we all cling to something. We always want to have something to blame. And because we think when we have something, if we don't know, if we're just like not blaming anything on anyone, it's like, it gives us fear, it gives us anxiety, because it's like, well, it's just going to keep happening. As long as we do something, it's something. I don't care if it's right. I just got to do something. I got to make a motion. Like, everything with all the racial stuff going on right now, it's like you can see so many people, companies, influencers, all these things, like, damn well some people are just posting shit just to post something. I just don't want to get called racist. Well, does that mean you're not racist, or does that mean you are? Like, it doesn't. That's not what it means.
Yeah.
Like, it comes down to understanding your stance first, and then being able to respect that other people are going to have difference of opinions. And that was probably the biggest thing, because it went right from everything with quarantine right into, everything with, Black Lives Matter, and that whole situation with, and I'm not making light of that whatsoever. Do I definitely think there's injustices? Yes. Do I think, we could go down a whole rabbit hole of stuff. So I'm not sitting here making light of it. I'm saying, I'm speaking on a high level principle value of it. We have a very large inability to appreciate and respect other people's difference of their reality from ours. And I think what ties into that more than anything, because I know this is a very long-winded answer, but I think it's really important, is that, it doesn't matter if other people agree with you. You got to realize you're not actually mad that others aren't agreeing with you. You're pissed off at the lack of validation of what your reality is. So because somebody else has a difference of opinion, you like people that have the same opinion of you as you, because it doesn't make you question your own reality. If I say the sky's blue and you go, yeah, the sky's blue, I'm like, yeah, like, we're on the same page. I know what's going on. But if I'm like, the sky's blue, and you go, the sky's red, I'm like, no, I got to make you believe what I believe. Otherwise, does that mean I'm crazy? And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. If you know yourself and you understand what you stand for, what you believe in, what is important to you, that's all that fucking matters. The other thing I learned about quarantine is that we have a definite problem with our supply chain of food in the country. Now that I saw meat prices go all the way down to, like, for beef, it was all the way down to like $3 for stuff that's usually $12, $13, $14 a pound. It's down to $3 because there was so much of it. And then you turn around the next day and it's like, how much is that? Like, is that right? Like, half the shelves are empty, and what is there? It's like 4 or 5 times as much as it was the day before. And the other thing is, the last thing, and I think probably one of the most important aspects, is kind of like what we hit on at the beginning of this, and what so many other people experienced, is everybody lives in different places. Like, we're very fortunate that we live in Texas right now. We have a house, So we have a yard, we have a really awesome neighborhood. Like just the people around us, our neighbors are awesome. Our dogs have the ability to go outside. Like, so we didn't really feel too cooped up the entire time between my girlfriend and I. We, had the ability to develop it, like kind of create our whole own at-home gym. And that's the thing. I guess it kind of filters back to the whole difference in respecting other people's situations. Well, you had Joelle on. Joelle's one of my best friends, and I felt so bad for her and her husband Brant, because they live in a 600 square foot apartment in New York, and still today all gyms are closed in New York. They're not opening anytime soon. You couldn't go anywhere, you couldn't do anything, and it's again, it just filters back to when you're riding high on life, it doesn't mean everybody is. So it's the ability to understand and respect that in other people, and understand where other people are coming from and kind of meet them in the middle.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry about that first one. First one was a whole nother podcast in itself.
I already did an episode on that actually a few weeks ago with my buddy. So we touched on that for 45 minutes or something. So no need to there is a need to go back to it, but if you haven't checked out that episode, definitely go check that out. The third episode of the Monday Sit Down with Anthony. It's a pretty good one. It's not third or second one.
I love that you're doing those now, by the way.
Oh, to interject before we end, it's been one of the best things I've done. I love just sitting down on Sunday, look at my notes, find a topic, and then just talk. It's cool to just talk on the mic, and just whatever comes out. It's fully raw. There's no editing. I literally take the WAV file and it goes right onto an audition and then right onto the podcast. There's nothing awesome, to it. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's literally how I do my rants every day.
Yeah. There's no better way to be yourself when you can't go back and edit, or you willingly don't, and you just post it. And whatever happens, if people resonate with it, they resonate with it. If not, they don't. But you're putting it out there because it makes me record more often. And I also just like doing it. I was there's a need for a second episode. I kind of want to record more and more. So I was like, what's better than sitting down on a Sunday for 15 minutes? It's 10 to 15 minute episodes. It's pretty quick, pretty easy. There's no excuse to not do it. So it makes me do it because I have the opportunity to. So it's been awesome to do them. I'm very excited for where they go. It gets people interactive with what topics they want to hear, maybe, or what they might not want to hear that might hurt their feelings that they may actually need to hear. But Grant, before you go, kind of want to shameless plug time. I know we did this all the way back on episode what was it, 7 or something?
Yeah, I think so. It was right around the beginning.
Yeah. Where can people find you if they want to find you on social media and stuff like that?
So currently am rebuilding my website myself. I have a couple of huge projects in the works. So I've actually been keeping quite a bit of that off of social media for right now until I lock down a lot more stuff. But I've recently started kind of just reinvesting my time and energy into social media to reconnect with a lot of people. I took this past year and really spent a lot of time being introspective about a lot of stuff. So I'm back on there all the time. But I love Instagram. I'm not cool enough to be on TikTok. I do all I get that fixed by helping Celeste do her stuff for her CB account. And then but social media. And as soon as my website's redone, I'll have that in there. Literally email me, you can DM me, send me videos. I respond to everybody all the time. It's one of my favorite things is connecting with people.
What's your account name? What's your account name?
I guess that would be important. Grant me a body.
Awesome. Yeah, everybody, if you enjoyed this episode, Grant and I kindly ask if you screenshot it at all, post it on your Instagram stories, tag us both. I always love showing love back to the people that love listening to the episode. So
Yeah, and if like you're watching the video, make sure when you screenshot it, it's like a good still photo of us, not where our eyes are closed. No, I'm just kidding.
that might be the next phase. I haven't decided if I'm going to do video. So it might be the next thing to consistently put it on YouTube as videos.
Ah, dude,
So
you got to,
so
man.
we
It's
will
incredible.
see more in store. There's a lot more. Trust me, a lot of episodes to come. But thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Ace of Spada podcast.